All right, it's 8:30. Let's call this meeting to order. Good morning, everybody.
That was interesting.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
Sure,
Yes.
sure. We were just talking about that. We recently completed tobacco checks on every business that sells tobacco. So I don't have the final results yet, but we just completed that this last week. Also, update on the K9, Deputy Austin Allman and Kalo began their training today in Forest City for the next 4 weeks. So, update, we had private donations of almost 12,000. We had a $3,000 grant from Dogs for Law Enforcement. So basically the cost of his training, the cost of Kalo has been covered, so.
All right, very good.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, any other public comments? Any public?
Iowa Hawkeye women, #1 seed.
Any other?
Number 2 overall.
Yes.
And Iowa State's #2.
Yeah,
Now, where
I
is
wonder
Iowa
if they paid to
State?
get that, but okay.
All right, any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on.
Abby's here.
We have minutes. March 11th. Do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, supervisors. Trust everybody had a good weekend.
A little chilly.
Well, it's colder down here this morning at 7:45 than it was at 3:45 when I rolled out of bed.
I believe that. Ooh.
Thought it was gonna warm up and be halfway decent today.
It's still winter till tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. And we will get snow sometime after tomorrow, because I stopped at Kessel's this morning, made an appointment to switch out my studded snow tires.
All right.
But we do still have the plows ready. We don't have plows on the vehicles, but they are ready if we need.
Okay.
But I certainly hope that we do not. We'll be working on doing some pipe replacement and Palm Avenue, getting that ready, hopefully after this week or middle of next, we might be able to be ready to start getting rock on that. So that's kind of exciting for us. Have that. You guys approved our contract rock last week, so we'll get that lined up as soon as we coordinate with the quarries on which of their facilities have stone right away, that we can kind of get a jump on that before we get any spring rains. Let's see, I will be gone from Thursday till Thursday.
Just one day, huh?
Yeah, I've got an annual getaway I do with some friends of mine, and we're going to Arizona this year. And my folks decided that since I was going to be down there, I could just stay a couple extra days and help them out with some things and then bring them home. So yeah, but they don't handle airports very well.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dad's 80, will be 87 and mom's 84, and they're not quite as spry, so it helps to have somebody to
Sure.
guide them through the airport. But we have everybody kind of lined up and have their list of things to do. Billy will be out pretty much the month of April. And he's got his guys with a list of things that they're needing to do. I stopped out and met with Brent Adam last week. He's got a culvert that, right now it's a box culvert, and then it has a long flume down a steep slope. And it's an open flume, it's basically a 3-sided channel. And he'd like to fill that in, and he's looking at his expense to put a top on that and then bring in the fill dirt Because he has a field entrance right adjacent to it right now. If he takes his corner wide, he could end up down in the bottom of the ravine, so. It's for his benefit, but it's in the right of way, and if he wants to. In my opinion, if he wants to go to the expense to make that a safer drive for himself. He has my support on that.
Is that on 110th?
Yes. It's just across the road and not quite, maybe an eighth of a mile west of his location.
We did something similar to that years ago on west of Bill's place. There was a gentleman there that has a semi and they rocked the ditch, the other side of the road.
So they can make the curve. Yeah, and I think Senator or Representative Miller Meek's office has everything straightened out, but I'm not going to go on the record until I actually have a piece of paper in my hand or an email.
I agree.
So I do have a question. I'm sure everybody does, but in my particular instance, was the Libertyville project originally going to be funded through some?
Well, last year, when Representative Miller Meek sent out her notice that this grant money was going to be available, that was the grant we originally applied
Okay.
for. You guys wrote a letter of recommendation, a very glowing recommendation, I might add, quite eloquent but because somebody else wanted 1/10 done, we also applied for that. And you can, by the rules of that grant, apply for 3. Okay, and, things got confused with 2, and they had some staffing issues. Somebody was going on leave, and so it's going to be all right. Honestly, the way it looks, we're going to come out. We're not going to get 1/10 done as soon as we would like to. But it looks like we're going to get 2 grants in 2 years, and I don't think that would have been possible without this mess up. So it was, it was actually a bonus for the county that happened.
And we'll believe it when we actually get the approval letter.
Yes.
Thanks.
I think that's all I got. We've got some things later on in the agenda
And one of those, moving on, number 2, review and consider supplemental agreement 3 for design services with Calhoun Burns. Increased survey expense for design of Libertyville Road Bridge, project BRS-CO51, parent 72-60-51, and authorized chair to sign.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question. That is just go out on Michelle. It says additional cost for plat work due to old contract pricing. Did they update the price? Is that?
well, Scott originally got the quote for the design of the bridge in 2015.
Okay.
So the price has gone up.
The
since
price
then.
has gone up since then, 7, 8 years, and because when they originally started design, it was swap. Well, now they don't have swap, so now we're back under federal guidelines. Actually, more survey work is required because we have to have flatter slopes for the federal guidelines, so we have larger temporary easements that we need. So there's more work and it's more expensive. And I thought $1,200 for an increase, I thought was more than reasonable.
Yeah, the increase is $1,200.
Yeah, and that, there's no markup from Calhoun Burns on that. That's just what French Rent-A-Car is charging.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abby, do you need to copy this also? Yes, please.
Thank you.
Alrighty, number 3, discuss and consider resolution for 2024 bridge posting.
I was unaware that when we update our bridge postings, we need you guys to approve them so they're enforceable. So what you have in front of you is 3 years, 2.5 years worth of bridge postings that need to be brought up and approved so that they are enforceable and tickets can be written on them.
Okay,
So moved.
we have a motion on this.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's amazing the things I find if I poke around on the Service Bureau's website.
Discuss and consider quotes for maintenance. UV cured lining for pipes under Slime Road.
Yeah, we have 4 very deep, very long culverts under Salina Road that are, thank you, Jim, in need of being replaced. The expense to replace them is probably 3 times what the cost is to do this UV quote system, UV system. It's a kind of a fiberglass balloon that they feed underneath in the deteriorating pipe. Then they inflate it, and then they run a UV curing system from end to end on it to harden it. So it's basically a pipe liner. And the reason we're looking at this instead of our normal practice of sliding in an insert is because each of these pipes has a break in the middle. So we can't put an insert in, and the cost to do an open cut, as deep as those are, would be quite expensive. And before you ask, yes, we do have room in the budget for this, Susie.
Thank you.
We will, I think we've got $20,000 or $15,000 extra in the equipment budget that we're not using, that we will put over into the culvert pot to make this fly. But we got 2 quotes for this. One was 158 and the other was 170 and change. And the 158,000 quote is from outfit out of Keokuk, Iowa. So they're not local, but they're relatively nearby.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Before we move on from Dwayne,
Yeah,
I had a conversation with a gentleman last week in here. And I've had conversations with him before, and he's a little rough around the edges sometimes, but anyway, the question was, centered around Old 34 East of Lockridge, that project came in so
Mhm.
much higher. Is there any thought about the city and the county looking at that again
Yeah.
in the future?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually in design. We have it tentatively scheduled for October this year, letting for construction in 2025.
Okay.
We're changing the scope to make it more affordable.
Okay.
It's not going to be quite as heavy duty a structure, but it's going to end up more like Nutmeg.
Okay.
it's a good road.
But, and for the traffic count, the traffic count justifies that expense. Whereas the other was just, it would have been nice had it come in where somebody's pipe dream had it planted, but this will work, and coordinating with Henry County will help both counties.
So, is it possible, for those residents along there, we can send them a letter or something to let them know that we didn't forget them, that that project is ongoing.
Yeah.
Cause he was. And he was excited, but, and unfortunately, the person he was talking to, which was me, wasn't fully
Mhm.
informed, so I would appreciate that, if we can do that.
Yeah, I thought I talked to Mrs. Hopper, but it's been a while.
Well, and you may have, something may have gone out, but you insisted.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been no correspondence regarding that, but yeah, we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Put my cheerful and efficient office staff on that.
Alrighty, moving on. Number 4, consider child abuse prevention month proclamation. Wait a minute, did I miss him? Oh, sorry, Brian, never mind. Meet with ambulance director.
Yeah.
Morning, Brian.
Good morning.
What do you have for us?
Got you out of the hospital.
I just finished out yesterday. It's, oh. Let's see. Good morning.
Morning.
For the month of March, we have done 80 calls. For the year, since January 365, and since October 1st, we're over 801. 8 transports so far this month. A couple to Des Moines, the rest to the University of Iowa. Currently in the account, we have over $72,000. And everything's starting to flow. We're getting our first payment from Blue Cross Blue Shield this month. And also the resubmits for Medicare are being done, and they should be flowing in as well. If you want to look on the run mix since January the 1st, up till now, as you can see, the ALS emergency is still at 53%, which is the highest, which is pretty good. Yeah, good and bad. You want to look at it. The next page.
Can I back up for just a second?
Sure.
On ALS, Medicare insurance looks at that differently than they do.
That's correct. Your ALS emergent and your BLS emergent, Medicare looks at that quite differently.
So the data's a little bit better.
That is correct, yes, sir. Next page on the analysis for the month by month. Kind of goes over what's been charged out, what we have received, and what we are being due. And a lot of that, the discrepancy for the Medicare, obviously, is a lot of the payments we had to resubmit.
Right.
So those are coming in. Your biggest gap at private insurance right now, we've only received a little amount of funds from different agencies. Our biggest thing so far, we have over 100 runs from Blue Cross Blue Shield that we will be receiving this month. Next page, the account analysis for payer type breaks down the Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, and patient bill. And you see those numbers and what can be expected as far as gross charges. Any net collections, which we are at 0, which is good. Any questions?
So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this but I noticed a situation this morning, and I won't go into detail as far as the situation, but in a case of an accident, does and since someone has to receive treatment, but it was the result of somebody else's, like, it was my fault that this person has to receive treatment. How do we bill the car insurance company? What do we do on that?
Well, you built the car insurance because they have medical coverage for the car. And then if they have any other private insurance or anything like that, whatever's primary, whatever's secondary.
Okay.
The next page is a breakdown of what insurance companies are paying. And it's a 2-pager between 124 and 324. And again, net collections are 0, which again is good. Following page has a monthly breakdown of number of trips per month, gross charges, net collections, and payments received so far. And since January, we only have $2,060 written off, which basically accounts for 1 run.
So when we're looking at this
Yes.
net charges, we would anticipate receiving that amount at some time.
That is correct, yes. What's been collected, everything's starting to flow in.
Right.
We're getting accounts every day.
Right,
The gross charges and what's allowable, and what's being
Right.
received so far is gonna be pretty much the same. Next page is the current payer bill mix between patient insurance, Medicaid, and Medicare. And again, your insurance is mainly Wellmark or Blue Cross Blue Shield. Our Medicaid is basically 0.1%, which is good. Biggest part is private insurance. Medicare makes up the next bit at 25%. And this goes over what's been billed and what's been collected over 120 to 180 days.
okay,
And the last page is just the Medicare, Medicaid breakdown and percentages of what's been billed out. And again, private insurance is 58.3%.
So, since we're on the subject then, I have not heard from Kevin this last week, so I don't anticipate receiving it this week.
well, we're not the only ones, because up at ISAC, I talked to the county, and they're in like year 3 of waiting for when they had ordered.
But well, I shouldn't say he assured me, but he indicated to me that either if he didn't get it by the 22nd, we'd have it by the 25th. Now, I don't know.
Of this year?
Well, yeah, I'm assuming,
Of
yes.
what month?
Yeah, good point. I don't know if he meant the week of the 22nd or the day of the 22nd, which would be Friday, or Monday, the 25th, or the week of the 25th. But in any case, I didn't hear from him last week.
Any questions or?
Anything else for Brian?
No. Oh, I'm sorry you've been sick. Heard you've been
Jim,
sick.
It lingers. So,
Have you ever heard about giving it to somebody else?
we don't talk about it like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
thanks.
no, and then Adam 52 goes in the shop on 21st for a week.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
And that goes in at 8 o'clock, and I've already notified the hospital and let Stacy know, so
Just a one-day event?
should be a 1-day event, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
Any questions?
thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now we will go to consider Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. We do this every year. Lee, you want to read this?
Sure. April 1st, 2024. Well, we'll do the rest of it too. Okay. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem that can be prevented, and whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Iowa, and whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas all members of a community benefit from creating conditions that support strong and healthy families, and whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, the Board of Supervisors, Jefferson County do hereby proclaim April as the National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Jefferson County and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
More than one.
Yeah. Probably. Okay, number 5, discuss and consider letter of support for the Jefferson County Emergency Operations Center project. All right, Bart, why don't you let us know what all this is about? I know we've
This is
talked.
also a grant application
Yep.
to Miller Meek's office. Same as the one he put last year, through FEMA. The current plan, has, secure evidence storage, non-secured area, narcotics, weapons storage. It has a training conference room with a lab and bathrooms. It has, overhead storage for a special response team, a ready area, more for jail transport, weapons cleaning, some of our response vehicles, enclosed trailers, radar trailer, UTVs. Has a secure search area for vehicles when we do search. Has some storage in there for some city vehicles also. So
And part of your current storage area has a dirt floor, right?
currently, yes, the building that we have, and this would be, some of it would be temperature controlled,
Right.
whereas we don't have that now. And the building we have now has a dirt floor. So this project would also include a second entrance coming off 12th Broadway,
Okay.
which the grant requires 2 entrances and exits.
Bart, have we talked about this, or have you talked about this with the Emergency Management Committee?
Yeah,
On?
but as far as in the meeting,
Yeah,
I don't know, it's come up more than a year ago.
yeah, I think I remember that. It would be nice to get a letter from them as well.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of support.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those potentially long shot
Yeah, I mean,
grants,
it's
but
not
we gotta apply in order to get it.
you're right.
So, yeah. So do we have a motion to
A
support
motion
this?
to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any more questions? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Do you want, thank you.
Thanks. All right. Discuss and consider two tax abatements. Do we mark in here? Yeah, would you please? Thanks. Okay, the first one. Let's see, is,
I think we need to replace her. It was when we did the original abatement. We did the whole enchilada and had only done 1,816 because there was a $25 title transfer
right,
Correct.
and a 2.25% credit card. So the difference is,
so that's all we need to change, this first one.
so we just need to address the $76.42.
Right,
No.
no, it's $66.42. So you want to make a,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend tax abatement of $1,882.42 to $1,816, reduction of $66.42 to account for a $25 title transfer fee and a 2.25% credit card charge.
do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we got this one. Great. Hi, welcome. We're working on abatements and we generally have a question for you, so we thought it'd be helpful.
we just did your
This one,
fee and
the $66 one. Okay, the next one, Ken Chandler wanted to talk to us. And this one we acted on a few weeks ago. Hi.
Thank you for hearing.
Welcome.
I'm here to request a reduction in taxes.
Okay.
On my condo, I have a condo on North Campus University, and it's a modest $65,000 apartment, but its taxes are about 13,000. And I'm 81 and I have worked all my life for a nonprofit organization. And so I have a social security income of $705 a month. And so have some savings, but it's running out very rapidly. And I'm just looking for any way I can find to reduce my expenses. And taxes would be one. Now, I feel an obligation to pay the taxes. And as soon as I'm hoping to get some income from a book sales, and that'll be in 2 or 3 years. And if that happens, then I will resume paying taxes at that time.
Are the taxes current?
No,
say that.
no.
So there is a process by which we have to follow. And if I'm misspeaking, you smack me upside the head, but,
I will.
well, I was looking at Elizabeth because I didn't figure it hurt near as much, but okay.
But you're closer to. Susan,
Okay.
so you-
You're not. Anyway, there is an application process that that you, the individual, fill out that indicates what your income is, what your savings are, and so on and so forth, and your circumstances. But it appears to me, first off, we don't have that, number one. Number two, there's some notes here regarding the fact that you were in Canada for a number of years. And I guess where I'm coming from, to be perfectly honest with you, is that I know that you're saying that mail was not delivered. I am absolutely 100% sure that if Mark had had an address other than the address he had, which is where your residence is located, that you would have received that by mail up there. But the fact of the matter remains is that I don't see, for me personally, that I understand that you got caught in Canada and that wasn't a good situation, and I can appreciate that. But it's not that you didn't know that property taxes were owing and doing. And that didn't sound right. Owing and due. There we go, not owing and doing. So from my perspective, while I realize that they accumulated, I'm assuming, Mark, at some point, did it go up for a tax sale or?
It was available, but wasn't ever
Okay.
purchased. Personally,
So, certainly not without the application process being filled out. But I'll be honest, I'm not inclined to move forward on it irregardless. Because I just think that I don't know, Mark, do you know, off the top of your head, what is actually owed?
I don't.
Okay. Because there's a dollar figure here of 1,091. I don't know. I'm not sure, again, like, there's not enough information here. But for me personally, I'm not inclined to move forward.
Right, and the conversation usually is what is precedent, because if we do this for you, we'll have probably 200 more people in the same situation or a similar one. So we really have to look at that also,
I understand.
but there's a process. So if you meet that process, it will come back to us, but so far,
I have it here. I just brought it with me. I didn't realize I
Oh,
should
okay.
submit it earlier. I'm sorry. That's
I can
fine.
make copies of it if
Yeah.
you.
let's look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait,
Oh,
let's
sorry.
look at this.
I understand you have to collect taxes. No, I'm not, I'm just asking where I can to save money.
We'll see what this is, but there definitely is a process and we have to follow that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, I haven't had it notarized yet. That's the one thing I haven't done, but.
Any thoughts, Susie?
Um. Yeah, I do. Really feel sorry for your situation.
Sorry?
I feel sorry for you in this situation. When you were in Canada, were you renting that facility where your condo, or did you sit empty?
I was renting it, and with the taxes and the insurance and the condo fees, I was getting about 500 a month in addition,
Mhm.
500 a month in rent, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I was, if that, because I was paying the utilities. I was renting it for $750 a month, but the utilities and everything else came out to about a little more than 400, almost 500. So I was getting really about 400 a month.
yeah. And the other question I had was, I was a little concerned about the mail. You weren't getting any mail. Is that right?
It's a complicated situation, but I called the post office several times to talk to the postmaster about why my mail wasn't being forwarded.
Uh-huh.
And apparently the renter that I had in there at the beginning had said to the postman that he doesn't live here anymore. And so the post office wasn't forwarding my mail. They're very cautious, I suppose, do it, but they weren't sending me my mail, and it was being held in the post office. So I had an ad for about 3 years. I didn't get any mail at all. So, and then in the fourth year, I got a whole big pile of stuff.
Sure.
And I tried to sort it all out and find out what was going on.
Yeah.
It's just that I was trying to adapt to life in Canada during the COVID epidemic. I was there when the COVID epidemic happened, and I was told to cancel my flight home and to shelter in place and quarantine. So I did. And I was adapting to life in a very cold country. It's even colder than here.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I'm not trying to appeal to your sympathy.
No, that's okay.
I'm not, I just had
The mail service was terrible for everybody during COVID.
yeah.
I understand that. At least your rental payments were coming through.
Sorry,
At least you received your rental payments, correct?
I received that because it's deposited directly to my bank.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Well, again, not to divulge I'm not going to say how much, because it's not,
No.
but well, I understand you don't want to get into your savings, and I can appreciate that.
well,
But that's, I go back to what I originally said. Especially considering the amount of liquid funds that you have available, I'm not inclined to, I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the other two, but I'm not inclined to move forward on the request.
Not this time.
okay. Okay, thank you for your time, consideration.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ken.
okay. Update from Little Achievers Childcare.
I don't know if you guys have met Tiffany Finch before. She's our director for the childcare center.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We don't have anything like that. It's been a while. We don't have anything super formal prepared. We just thought it'd be kind of conversational. Tiffany's doing a great job with the facility. We have, tremendous interest in it, and she can speak to different
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for having me here. I'm excited to share this information. Very excitedly, our total enrollment right now is 167 children. Yes.
That's good. That's
It's-
improvement.
It's every day. And just to remind you, we can have 185. So this is total enrollment. This would include part-time children. This would include full-time children.
So part-time children, what do they do when they're not children?
That's a
They're
good
a
question.
supervisor.
Causing. We currently have 40 staff, 22 full-time. 18 part-time. Of the 18, 12 of them are high school, which is exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, that we
That's
are
nice.
really working with the school district quite a bit. And 2 of them are interns within the school district.
Nice.
So yes, yes. We currently have, we are full in our infant room, so we have started a waiting list for that. In our, throughout the rest of the building, there are 5 in our 1s, 9 opening in our 2s, 3 opening in our 3s, and 10 opening in our 4s. You'll see that in that 4s is gonna be a little bit higher because of the preschool. And so that's kind of always gonna be our area where you may not see it reach capacity or until, we just keep think outside of the box on how to fill the needs for everybody in the community. So that's very exciting. We are reaching the amount of enrollment much quicker than we had anticipated. So definitely there was a need here in the community. So and not just the community, we have children from Van Buren, we have children from Mount Pleasant, we have children from Matumbo, we have children from all over the surrounding areas as well too. So there was definitely a need. Some exciting things that we're doing. We are IQ 4K rated 1, which is through, it's a state initiative that they do to really encourage quality. And so they have a level 1 through 5. They do encourage you to start at a 1, and then next year you can apply it at a year, and we'll just increase and continue to keep going. It is a new process that it used to be a different name. They've changed it within the last 24 months. And so I enjoy it. I think it reaches the right goals for the center. So it's changed a little bit, but we are officially a level 1. And another initiative that we're really working on with just local partnerships is just really professionalizing the industry. And so we work with our TEACH program and what's called our wages program. So within that, the TEACH programs offers free schooling for all of the staff that work full-time, work 32 hours. So free college, which is phenomenal. So the state, if you'll notice, Governor Reynolds has been great in the sense of supporting. How do we improve quality? How do we improve retention? How do we improve the many aspects that have been made it challenging for childcare? And this is one section that really stands out to me, that to increase the retention, you have to have the quality. You have to have the whether it's the professional individual to stay in that industry. And to do that means you're getting college education, means you're getting the training that is required to make them to take that next step. So really in general, with many of the ECIs, they're doing this as well, is reaching that professionalism that's going to create parity between the school districts and ECE. So it's getting there. The counties, the cities, the states, we just got to keep encouraging it, and then now just taking that next level to our teachers too. And like I said, we've got 22 full-time staff. We do have some with degrees. We have some with associate degrees. So it's exciting. We have a very, very great opportunity right here in Jefferson County to be the pinnacle of not just Southeast Iowa, but Iowa, and the quality and the standards that we provide for our families. So, yeah.
I know one of the things we talked about early on in the process was having a sliding scale or something available for people with low income. Could
Yeah.
you talk about that?
Yes. So what is offered through the state is called Child Care Assistance Program. That is no matter what. That is if you are a licensed child care center, you will qualify to provide that for your families, which we do. We currently have 75 children
Good.
on that, which is, just to compare my old location, I had 5. So we are definitely serving the needs of the low income. That has actually been the next piece of providing a sliding scale is the next piece that we've talked about a couple of times. I would say multiple times. I've actually talked with other businesses as well. TrapX being one of them, is how do we reach out to the families that don't qualify for that, but yet don't make enough that they can afford it.
Right.
And so, and we do, you'll see that divide. You'll see that we meet the needs of a lot of the low income. There's very, not near as many, probably that lower middle, and then we have the upper. And so I think that's across the nation that's an issue. And so there isn't a solution within the state for that. It's something, that we need to reach out within a community, and see how we, I see there's two areas. There's the number one is meeting the needs of that lower to middle class. So we can pay our teachers, so we aren't sacrificing the actual rate so that we can pay our teachers to a level. And then also, how can we use any sort of funds to meet the needs of quality teachers too? So there's two things. We don't have anything in place right at the time for that sliding scale. And so,
I
right,
know the state addressed the upper income level kind of early on when, wages started going up some, but I don't think that they've adjusted it quite enough. I think that the state really needs to look at that level of, of what poverty is. Because
yes.
it's really.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
So-
yes, it is
Does the
low.
State follow federal guidelines?
For poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to print it off and read the heading on it. I am pretty certain that they do.
So the only reason I ask that question is because if they follow federal guidelines, they won't move unless the feds move.
Yeah.
Right.
The feds-
Although I think
I
that
think
it was
that
the state of
changes
Iowa
yearly.
that
Yeah.
increased
Yeah,
it, not
you're right.
federally. So we
Yeah.
might be beating the federal guidelines. I don't know. We clearly can't be under them. So
Yeah.
So what is the, the income thresholds? So you, on your sliding scale, for example, or you've got 75 children, I'm assuming that since the scale slides, there's varying income levels that are associated in that scale. So what is I guess what I would say is, what is the maximum that a family can make before they receive any,
before they
before
don't
they don't
qualify.
receive any
Yeah.
assistance?
Sure. So it is tricky. So they're really, to get into the program, there is no sliding scale. Once you're in the program, then they have increased it to 225% poverty level. To get in, it's 145%. So on average for a family of three, it's roughly 36,000. So if you make below that with a family of three, then you would qualify. If you make above that, then you do not. Even if you make 36,001, you do not qualify. Once you're in the program and you qualify, this is new as of roughly a little over a year and a half ago. Once you qualify, then they have adjusted it to go up to 225% of poverty level, which is great, but it's getting them into it. So I'm not a complete advocate. Like, I would challenge that a little bit to relook at the wording of that, or,
It flies in the face of common sense.
yeah, it's very challenging. And we've had a couple of families already that has experienced that, and then have had one specifically had to drop down to just 1 day a week because she got cut off of the CCA, childcare assistance. And so, and to go to not make really much more in a raise, but now have to pay full childcare. So it's very, very challenging.
You would think the application they fill out initially would be good enough, for whatever percent of poverty they are,
Yes.
as opposed to having to redo the application every year based on what
Yes.
at that time.
Well, and legally, you have to fill it out if you have any raise, if you have any change of income, whether it's anybody new in your household.
Yeah, years ago, social services had you fill out the amount of pop cans you sold.
Oh,
Or
boy.
maybe that's kind of serious.
Wow.
I'm serious.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that it's a catch-22. And I understand that, because to be able to have quality employees and pay them a living wage,
Yeah.
the cost for daycare is significant, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, I just mean.
yeah, it is what it is. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so conversely, when you're making $400 a week, for a 5-day work week, you can't afford to have your kids
No,
in daycare. So either grandma has to do it or, you know, there's got to be some other alternative out there. Make that work. And that's why I say it's a catch-22. I don't know, I'm not smart enough to be able to, you know, to figure that out, but, I know it just, you dealt with it for years, I guess both the kids are in school now, right? Yeah, but, I remember when the boys were going to daycare, I prayed for the fact that they became school age,
Getting a pay raise, yeah.
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 I mean, that's exactly what it amounted to. And at one point I had both in there at the same time. So I don't know how you do it. And I don't know how people do it. But I say
Yeah.
it-
Because we operate at like the thinnest margin.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a nonprofit, we can't make money. But we have to make enough money to
Pay your bills.
sustain, yeah.
And we did ask, I was actually speaking with somebody different the other day that is in Washington County. And our rate is 198 for an infant. A lot of people just compare based off of that. And she was shocked. She was shocked. All of Washington County, Des Moines and Henry, I think is what she does, are above 200. And we pay more. We pay our staff about $2 to $3 more per hour than what they do there. So we are extremely efficient in how we think outside of the box when it comes to how can we meet the needs of both. But it's an ongoing, how can we help that one area of people? Because I'm sure they would love to have their children there. We would love to have their children there. And so it's that ongoing conversation of how can we accomplish this? How can we help them? And then what does that mean? I think that's our question is what is affordable? And so, finding that middle ground of what is affordable and then how can we make that happen?
Well, it's good that you're talking with some businesses because it's in their best interest also
It
to
is.
have a workforce.
Yes,
So,
yes, absolutely.
anything else you want to let us know?
So
Appreciate
it's
the
going well.
update.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
we
for
just
having
hadn't
us.
heard, so I thought, well, let's
Yeah,
get an
Good
update.
idea, yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thanks for your support.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on, committee reports.
I guess we can start the meeting now.
Do you have any?
Did you have Russ last week?
Last week, yes, I did. Was supposed to have a meeting at the chamber on appreciation picnic, but because of the Rust Board, I couldn't make it, so
It's postponed.
so I think we're looking at a different date. But yes, I did have a Rust Board meeting. We had a discussion with a township trustee from the Argyle area, so it'd be Lee County trustee. And they're trying to open up their baseball, softball facility again in Argyle, and they've been disconnected from the system for a number of years. And that was done at the request of Lee County. And so we had provided a cost to reconnect and everything because for probably more information than you want, but it's a mechanical system. And in that mechanical system is a pump and a control board panel. And you can't leave those pumps in the system and let them, you have to be pulled because if you don't use it, they don't work. And so we can use those pumps because they have to be replaced every so often in those mechanical systems. Anyway, so we use that pump in other locations in the Argyle system. We've replaced about 7, 8 pumps over the years since that system has been in existence. And so they were thinking that we should replace that pump. At no cost, and I said, no, we're not going to do that. So we submitted to them a cost, it was about round figures $3,500. But they had the money, they were going to pay a full year's worth of monthly sewer charge upfront. And so, yeah, if you guys accept that, we're a go. Well, we never heard from them. So this trustee came in and wanted to know why we hadn't moved forward on it. Well, the simple fact is that nobody told us to go ahead and move forward. And he said, well, they've got the money. And I said, well, I'm sorry. Well, you may be 100% correct that they've got the money. None of they have come and said they've got the money. So we're not ordering a pump until we have something. Well, that was pretty much the conversation. Now, in the case of question that Susie had the other day that I was unaware of, I did bring that up. And regarding the loss of an employee. And so they're in the process of submitting, what do you want to call it?
Applications.
Well, requests,
Oh,
letting
sure,
people
sure.
know that there's a job opening, because I did express that our contract calls for full-time.
Correct.
And absent that, there'd have to be an adjustment made.
And it should be.
Right. And so, but at this point in time, the intent by the board and by the director is to replace that position. But I knew you, and I apologize for not knowing, but when you asked the question, because but anyway, so that's where we're at on that.
Thank you.
And it sounds like Argyle's going to move forward and they're going to get their baseball
Good. Do you have any
program
plans?
back up. And
No,
running.
not
I had
associated with this.
ACT, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I was at the State Iowa Association of County Conference. So I have a longer report than usual, but it was the best one I've ever
Well,
been.
Representative Hayes said she had a good conversation with you.
I spent an hour and a half with Representative Shipley and Hayes
Yeah, that's
Thursday.
right. She did say Jeff.
I also talked to, or actually Wednesday, Senator Dickey.
I'm sorry.
And as far as the legislature goes, what we were told then, of course, that was right before the second funnel,
Right.
was pretty much anything that's not done after the funnel's gonna be in something that's already in the works, which we've heard on the news, or related to appropriations. But that's the one that always comes back to affect us in the end, is the appropriations, because you never know till the last 3 or 4 days of the session what they're gonna do. So the theme for the county day at the Capitol on Wednesday was unfunded mandates. So the supervisors had a booth, the auditors had a nice little handout listing a lot of unfunded mandates, taxation, mailing, juvenile detention, medical examiner fees, magistrate appointment, inmate medical bills, supportive libraries, attorney fees, general assistance, environmental health, emergency management funding, homestead 65 plus exemption, military exemption, 2-tiered assessment limitation, mailed bond notices, court space, and substance abuse committal. So that's a handout that was available to legislators from the auditors group. The supervisors had a display. I also had an ISACS board meeting, and at that, a representative, from Mid-American Wind Energy spoke. So I got his contact information, but a couple of things he said, and in talking to other supervisors, is it sounds like part of the reason we're hearing a lot more throughout the state about the wind energy, if I interpreted this correctly, is because this MISO, which when we met with Dusty Fox early on, they mentioned that, and I believe it's Mid-Continent Independent Siting something. And so the goal that the federal government has is that by 2035, there'll only be 5% coal, so that's part of why we're hearing so much about renewable energy sources right now. So, fast forward to that. I talked to a supervisor from Adair County and they have the highest number of turbines in the state. They have 535 in Adair County, and it's a pretty small county. They get about he said 13 million a year in revenue, but they spend about 5 million on roads. But I don't know, you could talk to their engineer and see any road use issues. Because I think that's a big concern that I was hearing. And one thing I picked up from another supervisor on the wind was also make sure to do a bond with the company and update it every 5 years. Because what happens, these original bonds are a lower amount, and over time, of course, with inflation. So just put in the contract with them, it'll be updated every 5 years so that there's a reason to sit down and increase it if you have a bond with them. But they said that is a good option to do because of all the changes in companies buying and selling. On Wednesday, then afternoon, after County Day at the Capitol, was a 2-hour HR presentation. That was pretty much a good review. One of the things we need to ask Dusty Fox for is their safety manual, because one of the supervisors I talked with said that was a real enlightening experience to get a hold of that and read it, just to see what they have in it. I have asked them for a contract that they give like a landowner, and they weren't sure that they could give me one. I said, I don't care to see any dollars in it. I don't care, what they're paying them. I just want to see what the fine print says, especially about decommissioning.
Because our ordinance now does talk about developing an emergency response plan,
Mhm.
but you may be, the safety maybe is.
And the safety manual may help address what they do.
Right.
Apparently, they're all grounded, the turbines.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's a good idea there. We should see. It just be a blank contract
Right.
and have to have any.
No, I've asked
And if they're
Jared
not
for one.
forthcoming with
Well,
that.
last tonight, hopefully. So tonight we have that meeting at Pekin
Right.
at 6:30.
I'll make sure that's again gonna be in the news, by the way, at 12 and
Yeah.
at 5.
And then the other thing, they said, and I went to the booth where this Mid-American rep was at to talk to him a lot more in depth. So I took notes. He said that we're on county roads during construction is they work with the county engineers for a haul route, what roads you want them not to be on for, safety for bridges and all of that. There's a pre-construction assessment, third-party engineer. They maintain the roads during construction, meaning the one company. And then there's an after construction road survey. And then there's a decommissioning of final.
I don't how in the world they could even make a corner out here on some of these roads. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, those blades and those, how in the world you'd ever make a corner?
I don't know.
They have a rear steer axle. They used to turn it on,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
they used to turn on force, which I don't know why, but when the blades would come out Keokuk, they would turn at 4th Street when I worked at Smithburg's.
Okay.
And they were this far from the sign on ours and they're this far from the sign at Kessel's. They should just went straight and cut across the gravel, right? But that's not what the plan was.
And then he also said that a lot of the turbines nowadays are 600 to 650 feet tall, so they put less of them in and they're about 3 to 5 megawatts. So, and again, that was from Mid-American doesn't have a dog in this hunt. They're not involved in this project. I invited him down to because his job's to educate people in Iowa. I said, well, if you want to come to Jefferson County, Because it's another person to talk to. And the other thing I found interesting in talking with him is he said as far as setback distance is 2.5 to 3 times the turbine length, which is longer than what we've been looking at.
That definitely is.
And I thought, well, that was interesting coming from another wind and energy person.
2,000 feet if you're at 600.
So we'll find out more on that tonight. And then at the ISAC conference, it was probably the best program. Everything was pretty relevant. Kelly Garcia spoke the first day. And it really sounds like you'll appreciate this. She wants outcome for the money. Yes, speaking my language.
Yeah.
And they're working on the waiver design. A goal of this whole redesign is to have 1-point entrances, because now, as we all know, it's very siloed in the DHS system. And so they want to make sure they get the voice of local people. They know duplication exists. They know Medicaid process for providers is cumbersome, so they're really going to work to correct all this. Identify all needs. They said, in terms of child abuse, teachers are the #1 reporters, which I thought was interesting. And in the state of Iowa, the threshold for abuse is very high. So in order for child abuse to actually be investigated, because it's a high threshold, we're higher than a lot of states. And they want to have one front door for families to enter, so they don't have, again, so many silos. Want to get a level of stability. And she said about 1/3 of Iowans are struggling to make ends meet. 65% of the jobs in Iowa pay less than $20 an hour. That's from 2022. And the 20 most occupations. So they're going to focus on poverty reduction and need policy changes to make that happen. Part of how they plan to do that is to modernize the IT system, to not have silos, and again, to have one door entrance. And currently the system's diagnosis-based, and they're gonna make it more need-based focus. And she gave the example in the current system, a lot of times people with autism currently fall into the gaps. And so they want to do away with that, because if it was need-based, it'd be easier for them to receive the services they need. And let's see. Oh, a new terminology I had not heard. And she called it OIG. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it has to do with how many children are sleeping in offices because they have nowhere to go. And so I thought that was interesting. They're trying to get a handle on that. And again, the #1 issue is behavioral health, is what they're trying to serve. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward here. Oh, I asked her a question, because I always ask about the providers in rural Iowa, because every meeting we all go to, we don't have enough workforce and we don't have enough providers. So I asked about that, and she said they're doing some pilots and working with the University of Iowa specialists for local providers to be able to talk to them, so that at least they can get more information on some of the things they're being asked to do. And again, this is a short answer to a complicated question, but it sounds like they're at least aware of it and trying to work on it. Okay, fast forward to opioid. Opioid. As of yesterday, we got 6 more emails. Money's coming. Forwarded them to you today, and Shannon has these too. If my math was correct that I added these up, we will be receiving $89,970. So I'm sure Shannon's real good to let us know when that comes in. So that's the next round of payments. So at the state, at the conference, they had an information just on opioid best practices. And one of the interesting things was create matching grants. They said, the money will go farther if people have skin in the game, so to say, and that might be an option we want to do. And there's a lot of funding out there already, so we need to make sure to look at what else is available in our county. And the other thing they suggested, and I'm saying this for those of you online that are on the opioid committee or anybody else that knows, they said involve somebody from AA or Narcotics Anonymous on our planning group. So if anybody knows anyone that would be willing to come to our planning group, which meets again April 23rd, that would be helpful. And I asked about fentanyl test strips because there was a study somewhere that if somebody tested fentanyl before they did their drugs, 70% of them would quit, or at least cut down. I thought, well, that's an interesting factoid, but under the current laws in the state, and I'm looking at part because it's law enforcement, you can use them right.
How they come up with that number?
I don't know how you know how they do studies, anyway. And again, Connor, all this is from my notes, so you know, it is what it is.
Right.
Well, they're not criminalized in some other states, so.
That could be. Oh, there was a study at Johns Hopkins, Principles, it's called. And it says, in every dollar invested in youth prevention, we save $18 in future costs. And this is with your drug focus in general. And they really stress need input from lived experience. Warren County has a health navigator program that helps people just be able to come to county to know where the resources, where to go for different resources. Again, getting rid of the silos. Webster County's using some of their opioid funds to put deputies in schools.
Deputies where?
In schools, resource officers.
Oh, okay.
And so they really stressed, there was a gal that presented on this, the goal of all the opioid as we look towards spending anything is to save lives. And that's really what, and here's where they said 70% of people who had a positive test strip change behavior. So, some communities have found recovery centers, a place where people can go to find community. They said community's a real important part of this whole behavioral health thing and the opioid that. And to use the model of Your Life Iowa also, you can enter a zip code and get the providers in your areas, if anybody knows. Then there was a joint meeting with the supervisors and auditors. Carrie Johnson presented information, and people, the mailings go out this week, as we all know. And one thing they said there, and I asked Shannon this morning to verify it, she was telling us if any government, and I'm looking at you, Bart, because I know you have a Facebook page. I know the treasurer does, in public health and conservation, that they would have to have a link to the information with the budget information that's going to go out. And so Shannon's going to verify that before we put that out, but we need to find that out this week since the letters are going out.
When do the letters go out?
The 20th, I believe.
So I had a question on that. Let's assume for the sake of argument that that was an accurate statement
Mhm.
regarding the link. The fact that you can access, well, you said Facebook, not website.
It has to be a departmental, that's the only thing they use it for. We're not talking about people's personal
No,
Facebooks.
I get that. I was just thinking that the link is on our website and you would automatically have that link if you went on our website to go to the sheriff's or whatever, but you're talking Facebook.
I'm talking Facebook,
Right, okay.
which we don't have as a county.
But the complete budget will be posted
On
on county.
the
website.
county's website, yes.
that's easy enough to link it.
Right.
And that's our current understanding and what Shannon said she'd received, but she said she would check based on what I heard up there.
And just let us know if
We will.
Yeah.
Because we want to do it right. And so Carrie just talked about mostly the process. Put the first hearing date on the website. And if there's an official social media page, it needs to go on that. And she did say when we do these separate agendas, they can be on the same day, just not at the same meeting. And if we want to set a public hearing. And as far as House File 718 this year, the consensus of the legislators and also from this budget person in the budget Department of Management is we might see technical changes, but we probably won't see a lot of major changes unless it comes through appropriations. Legislators want to see how this first whole year cycle works before they make changes.
Yeah, sure they do.
They were very interested, and the cost of the mailing came up several times with the legislators on Wednesday and also in this meeting. So I think they're going to get the message on that. It's our
Kind of like
understanding.
closing the barn door after the horse is gone.
Right. And then I did hear on our local radio something about the auditors are issuing press releases about when the tax mailings happen.
Yep.
And that's true. So, then there was a session on EMS, quite timely. So it was the West Des Moines person, and then there was also Cassuth County just went through it, holding an election. And they said the first time they did their vote, they had 60% approval, and the next 5 years, or next time, the law changed in recent years. It used to be they had to have an election every 5 years, and they were in that window. So they had one, the first time was 60%, 5 years later, it had 93% approval from the taxpayers for the ambulance. He said there's a decline of volunteers, which is why, again, more counties are needing to take this on. Takes about 5 months to get it on the ballot. And there's a handy dandy handout that might be helpful for timeline. I've got 2 copies. Anybody wants to look at it,
Let me look at it.
about all the steps to take, and then there's a sample resolution. Publish the resolution 3 times before the final reading, 60 days before the election is what they said. You can do a local 1% surtax, which we've talked about, or the property tax, which most counties are doing.
And I would say unequivocally, I looked into the 1% years ago, and it would only generate about 110,000
Right.
years ago. And with the legislature looking to reduce income tax, in other words, they're wanting to reduce the amount of state income tax, that 1%. And how that works is you get 1% of all the state income tax that's paid in your county. But if the state reduces the income tax, so does your 1% reduces as well. There's no benefit to it as far as I'm concerned, but it was something that I did look at years ago.
And so, yeah, I've got some more notes on that, but it's,
So just
So,
2
yeah.
things real quickly.
Yeah.
One, you were talking, we had a situation over the weekend. And we had an individual that had some mental health episode that was in our crisis house.
Mhm.
And the individual did go to the hospital. They also had a physical ailment as well as the mental health episode. Hospital sent him back to the house. The person went really had an issue. I mean, it went, shall we say, off the deep end. Law enforcement, not the sheriff's department, but the police department said they didn't have enough, was a voluntary commitment, so that you know that. Obviously, the house is run by First Resources. Years ago, it was Tenco before it was sold to First Resources. But the region used to have a contract with Optimate to do assessments. I don't know that anybody was contacted from Optimate. I don't know if we still have that contract.
It's my understanding we do.
This person, again, obviously it was a voluntary commitment, needed to be assessed, and if,
That would be up to the hospital to,
yeah, and I get
Make that
it,
arrangement.
and they didn't do it. So I fast forward, this individual was picked up by law enforcement yesterday, early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon, going west on Burlington Avenue, stark naked. Started stripping off clothes around O'Reilly's. My point simply is that I'm sure the law enforcement had enough information at that point. We should never have got to that point. And so I guess what I'm asking is that maybe we need to pull First Resources, the region, and
What?
Optimate and a hospital, and because that could have been, they were threatening to kill people.
why don't you contact Sandy and see what she knows about this?
Okay, because it should have been, that's the whole idea behind this, is for these partners to work together.
Mhm.
And I get it, I understand that this individual was a voluntary commitment, but sometimes we have to take initiative beyond that.
I think a voluntary commitment it would allow us to know quicker what's going on.
Right,
You
right.
know, people just need to do their jobs. I'm sorry.
Do you know if anyone called 988? That's the mobile crisis number.
I do not know, Elizabeth, the reason I have some information on this is because my daughter works for First Resources. And while they normally don't have somebody stay at the house, she was there from midnight to 8. She was one of the ones whose life was threatened. And my whole point is that I remember early on when we
Right.
got into the region and the contracts with
Because they had that.
Optimate. Right, and
Why
I
don't
just,
you talk to Sandy, because she could
Okay.
help facilitate what happened.
the other thing is that just for your information, was involved, there was a Senate file that was passed called 411. And it had to do with restricting counties' abilities to pass ordinances, restricting consumers' access to electricity, to gas, to
Oh,
LP.
yeah, I talked to
And,
Hayes about that, and
right, and so that bill is effectively dead, and while it didn't have anything to do with wind ordinance and solar farms, I said to her, the way that it's written, because it said, including but not limited to. And so at some point, somebody can make the determination. And so there was a lot of,
it was, she gave me a copy of the latest version, and this was Wednesday. And you could hardly understand it. And I
Right.
said, why is this even being considered as a law? It's because somebody doesn't want us to become like California and restrict gas
well,
ovens.
and she
I'm like,
indicated, and I
it
agree with
doesn't
her assessment, that it needed to be re-edited. And I said, well, yeah, I said, at the very least, well, there was enough outcry over it that the bill was pulled and
Yeah,
effectively.
it's like, and Forest Reserve didn't go anywhere this year, it's my understanding.
Does Farm Bureau
Does
have
she know any
does
different?
Farm Bureau have any?
Not what I got. I thought it moved on.
I don't know, you might know better. I asked somebody and they said it didn't, so they might not have known what they were talking
I
about.
thought I've also heard about it moving on,
Okay,
Because
I
was
would
gonna
go by
ask
what you
Joe,
heard,
but-
because
but yet again, I mean, that's.
We'll wait
Everything
and
can
see.
be wrong, yeah.
So why is there such a resistance to this?
what,
It's been this way for years that we've been trying to get this.
Forest Reserve?
Yeah.
I don't
not the
know, but
Forest
I,
Reserve per se, but to get property taxes paid on.
and
You know, you come along here and you restrict our
But
growth,
I've got it passed, it went on.
but then they
Yeah.
take away our
You probably
ability to
know,
tax.
but again, I might have It might have
And a
passed
lot of
after
these
I,
are being
you
used
know, I
for
asked
commercial
Lindsay,
purposes,
you know.
which is fine, I don't care about that.
Which
Oh,
house
okay.
file was it again?
Um,
2093.
2093.
yeah,
Just always seemed like, Joe, it's taken years.
I know.
and I think I asked our assessor after our last discussion
It
about
doesn't
this.
bother the northern part of the state. It's just us in the south.
Okay, that explains a lot right there.
Yeah.
We have about, I think, 7,000 acres in the county of it, ballpark. Okay,
Almost 86 is what I think,
okay,
for 2020.
2020.
Maybe it's 60, 68.
Yeah, we're in the same ballpark.
Subcommittee, I was just gonna get my ducks in a row.
Got ducks?
No,
No, because you got to feed her. Boom.
so Monday I know I didn't get on the minute, I don't know how parliamentary list and stuff. I just wanted to make sure what I need to do tonight at the Pleasant Plains City Council meeting.
This is what I got. Second.
Are you on the agenda?
Yeah, for Pleasant Plain.
Right.
It's listed,
So I just need to ask for it to be a Class C.
but it's not logged
Well, you want,
in. Final.
yeah, I mean, ideally, you'd like the forum to vacate the road, but you can't do that because of the, well, I guess you could, but you have to allow access to utilities and to regional utility service systems and to other entities.
So Redwood is the
It's farm period.
Dividing lines.
north-south road.
Right.
The sewer line comes up on our side of the ditch. T's, there's the manhole that's like in the right of way 10 feet, like where you would ditch the road. And then there's a rural water line going on the other side. So basically, there's three entrances there. You'd only really need one, but so is Redwood in Pleasant Plain or, because that's like the border? So it's the middle of the road? You know, I don't know if that's county or if that's Pleasant
Yeah,
Plain.
it goes to, if, depending upon, let me put it this way. If city limits goes to Redwood, it goes to the middle of the road,
Okay, so that, okay.
okay?
I haven't talked to Striegel from Kyoto about that particular road, but I was gonna worry about the east-west road, the 110th first in city limits.
But yeah, you, if you went to a class C, you could gate the road. They're not going, I mean, the county, well, it's city limits, but there's really no way that they can vacate the road.
Okay, that's fine.
But they can change the classification.
Okay.
And I agree with Dwayne, and I talked to your dad about this too, but you know, Dwayne indicated some concerns about 80,000 low going across the pavement in East Pleasant Plain.
Yeah, and Mom is very worried about them tearing that up.
Well, and
Okay.
so the same thing would happen to the seal coat, yeah.
You know, I went from where the hog barns are there on
Uh-huh.
10th, and I went east. It's not that much further to get to Germanville Road.
No, it isn't. But my whole question would be, and of course, what you're doing with city council is, and I told your dad I would go to the meeting tonight if they had one. I forgot when we've got this meeting up at Beacon High School,
I
so I'm
told
not
him
gonna be
the
able to
same
make it.
thing, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my thinking is this. You know, if they'll gate that road or if they agree to make it a class C and because it's in their jurisdiction, whatever they decide to do. One of the things I'd like to look at as a whole for the board and for Dwayne and for the gentleman, Mr. Crone, is that his name?
Crone, I don't
Laramie?
remember his first name.
Laramie?
Lair, yeah.
Yeah. Is for us to look at Spruce and 110th and make that wider using his $10,000. It's already
Well,
rock and the dirt.
That's a discussion for another time.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
why don't we wrap up our meeting now, and if you two want to follow
Okay.
up, you
Okay, I
can.
didn't know it was over.
No.
It wasn't over.
Okay. Do we have a motion for claims? And it is a grand total of $110,239.42.
To make the motion,
Second.
you made the
I'll
motion.
make the motion, yeah. Okay, any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome back, Lee.